Okay, well then we're good as well, I guess. Let's start. It's about time then. Okay, cool. No, but I'm really happy that we're all here today. Welcome to the to the space that was inspired actually by the big theater in Moscow. That was, as I don't know if many people have noticed already or not, but here we are in the metaverse, and we're going to have this panel about metaverses and its value for different projects within the near ecosystem. Maybe the conversation will go about other blockchains as well. But basically, we're here with four guest speakers today. We're having Vandal from DAO Records, who's the man behind the project, which is focusing on building the future tools that will pave the way to the new music industry ecosystem. We also have here Decentricity, a Wonder Woman who has been in the space for quite some time, working on different projects and experimenting with different initiatives. And now she's the CEO of the Bio project. We also have Clarion here, who's a recognized developer and a man that is standing behind Tamago, so the music project as well. And then we have 3XR project for creating virtual spaces that fosters community participation in the digital economy. So with this beautiful set of people, I suggest we start the conversation without further ado. So Ariana, the floor is yours.
Okay, so it's very exciting to be here with all of you, and I hope we'll have a nice conversation about the metaverse. And one of the first questions I would like to ask is, what is for you the metaverse, and why is it important for your field of interest? So for Clarion and Vandal, why do you see opportunities in the music industries, in the metaverse? And it would be interesting to know your opinion, the opinion of all of you in this respect.
Clarion, should go first. Oh, should I go first?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah, no, so yeah, metaverse. Yeah, I think it's an interesting. It's one of those buzzwords right now. I think you hear a lot of people saying metaverse, and there's a lot. There are many different kind of meanings behind it. You see like Facebook changing their name to Meta, as if they're trying to say, hey, we're going to be the company that is the metaverse, as if one company can be the metaverse, which I don't think is the case at all. The metaverse is potentially, it's basically an emerging market for opportunities for different tech to enter a more virtual type of medium of exchanges. So taking different platforms, different technologies, and then creating a more virtual-centric way to increase, whether it's to increase optimization, increase utility, or create interesting worlds. I mean, if you look at games like Fortnite can be argued is already a metaverse. It's a metaverse because not only does it have a virtual world, but it also has non-gaming elements in the virtual world. So when we talk about metaverse, there's these different kind of definitions. For me, working in building a music application, I think it's super exciting to think about how can we use music in a virtual realm moving forward. So I don't know if that clarifies anything or not, but when I think about metaverse, I guess my point is that I think it's interesting how there's not one necessary definition, but it's definitely not something that one person can just, own. It's something that I think that many tech companies can use moving forward to create more beneficial experiences for people in the future.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with Clarion as well in that definition. I also want to add, like specifically for me and how I see the metaverse is that it's a virtual space for social experiences. I think that's what a lot of people do in the various metaverses is engage in certain social experiences. Whether that's like what we've been doing with DAO Records. We started in April. We got something coming actually for the second anniversary. We started in April of 2020, mainly due to the pandemic and the inability to do events in the real world, which is what I've been pretty much doing for the past 20 plus years or so. And we kind of maneuvered into the metaverse using cryptovoxels and incorporating music and NFTs and just like a virtual location for anybody anywhere to come and join in these musical experiences. And it's a great tool to connect people, similar in my mind to like what MySpace was before Facebook, where you could connect people with similar interests, whether that's music or what have you, and come together on a platform. Could be, a lot of new platforms, for example, for all those people who are in NearHub at the moment, they're in the metaverse. 3XR is also the metaverse. Reality Chain is the metaverse. And I think one component that really kind of defines the metaverse in my mind is the implementation of like blockchain or decentralized technology. I think Web3 is really the defining factor in my mind behind the meaning of the metaverse. So I'll end with that.
Before we continue, Sasha is here, so I'm going to leave the floor to him. So
cool. I just want to just jump in and just say, Vandal, that Crypto Voxels DJ set was pure fun. By the way, that was a good time.
Yeah.
Hey, Sasha.
Hi, Sasha.
Hey, how's
life? Welcome. We're just discussing the metaverse. We just got started, and if you want to already maybe say what it means for you and how you experience the whole metaverse experience so far, that would be a nice intro, and maybe also say a little bit about who you are. However, we all know, obviously. So.
In terms of I'll start with. I'm Sasha. Some people know me pretty well here. I work in Human Guild. Pretty much we started it together with Vlad. We used to work in Near together. I used to work on the business side, bringing early applications to Near, talked to maybe 500 founders at this point, started incubator accelerator called Open Web Collective for Near. And Vlad built a big chunk of Near Wallet actually, and the first virtual world on Near. And we've been focusing actually quite a bit on gaming and worlds recently. It's not just limited to this. We're like trying to help other use cases, but I think the metaverse is for us. Like I feel like we've been just mainly user of metaverses. So we used first crypto voxels when our friend was actually priced out of crypto voxels, and we actually got basically headquarters for Human Guild inside of crypto voxels, kind of because of kind of like real estate and all these things happening inside of crypto voxels. And then we actually moved to Near Lens more recently and kind of spending time there, but that one is not fully working. If it scales beyond like 20, 30 people, we have some issues with audio that we're trying to work through. So this was metaverse, pretty much crypto voxels and Near Lens so far.
Interesting. Anybody else who wants to elaborate a little bit on what it means for them to be in the metaverse or to use the metaverse? Eccentricity, yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I've actually been in the metaverse for about 12 years because I was like one of the people who were like in Second Life. That was, of course, already a metaverse. It's just not a decentralized metaverse like Vandal mentioned. And one of my primary experiences of like being in the metaverse is that it is just an extension of what we currently are using in our digital lives. Even though even you can even say that Telegram, WhatsApp, communication tools like even this one, even Zoom, even video chats, that's actually a form of the metaverse, as in because when we the concept itself, when William Gibson mentioned cyberspace was the predecessor of the metaverse, and the cyberspace basically became the web as we know it today. So, of course, when the word metaverse, though, Neil Stephenson, Snow Crash, I guess a lot of people here have already read Snow Crash or at least heard about it. And that sort of becomes something related to virtual worlds. However, I would like to basically highlight that the difference between metaverse and games and the other types of virtual experiences is that, first of all, it's persistent. And secondly, it is focused on social immersion, like the ability to basically have conversations within these worlds. And social immersion is something that we're currently very strongly focused on in our new project, Reality Chain. So it is a Metaverse project that is actually one of the focus Metaverse projects of the moment. We have gotten a few investment rounds as well. Our focus is making sure that the Metaverse can be run on your phone, can be run on any device, and can be run casually as something that is more of a reality sidechain, so to speak, like a sidechain to reality. So something that you can basically keep online at any time while you're doing other things, sort of like a chat application, but it is a full metaverse. So that's sort of my definition of the metaverse, and I'm keen to discuss more with you fine people.
Any more inputs on this one, on the meaning of the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, I can sum it up. So I think great. Everyone has a great version of what a metaverse is. I think I can sum it up because I agree with both of you, with all of you. I could sum it up is when our digital life becomes more relevant than our physical life, right? So like today we're meeting here. I mean, I'm in my home. You're probably somewhere at your place, and we're all connected. We're all sharing our thoughts, live streaming into a virtual world. And I mean, we could even like interact with like a chain and send some tokens or do some things here and there. So yeah, I think this is kind of like the definition for the metaverse today. And I really like what Center City said about like the persistence. And yeah, I think more and more we'll see more projects like working on the metaverse, like making sure that all of the data is persistent somehow. And I think like chains like Near enable this, and yeah, that's kind of like where my thoughts are.
Yeah.
I would also add that I think metaverse will be like very much evolution. It's not going to be something that will just one day become a thing. I think as a technology, it's like not, it will take some time for certain pieces to come together. Blockchain is just one piece of it, right? But there are like a lot of other pieces. There is a series of articles about metaverse by Matthew Ball on his website, like 9 different articles talking about database side of it, the throughput side of it, the networking side of it, the blockchain side of it. And so I think it will be like kind of like evolution. We'll start seeing new use cases, and they'll be pushing the boundary of the current technology. And then there'll be new infrastructure being built to support those use cases. So it will be like years of this kind of evolution that will take probably like decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's interesting. Actually, one of the things that would be also interesting to discuss in the conversation is how exactly blockchain offering an added value to the metaverse if we're comparing to, for instance, like more commercial things like Facebook or Microsoft. But before we discuss and like jump into that, I think it would be interesting if each of you could maybe talk about the added value that the metaverse and using metaverse has for your specific industry, right? Because we have different kinds of projects here. So yeah, whoever wants to take that first.
So
I can
okay,
well,
okay. So ladies first, I guess. My industry, I actually have several industries, but my primary company is actually Decentralized Bio Network. And the Decentralized Bio Network does allow several things to be done with like biological data. And you can basically service people like anything related to bioinformatics consulting, your personal genetic consulting. That can be all done with like payments done on chain. And one of the things that we are also researching is the ability to basically bring your electronic medical records with you as basically something sort of like an NFT, but like that basically everything is in the unlockable section, so it remains only usable by you. That's one of the things that we're researching, and the thing that we're very interested in when we're talking about the metaverse is the ability to actually use the metaverse for genetic consulting, like based on the genes that you can have face-to-face conversations for people who are clinicians who are able to give diagnostics, and also those clinicians don't have to be face-to-face with you, but like they can be face-to-face in the metaverse, and then like instead of examining you, they already have like all of your electronic medical records, including like your genetic like your personal genetic data and the analysis of that. And but you can still have like sort of the human touch of actually meeting people and having that diagnostic from your clinician. So that's something that's sort of interesting for my industry, which is the bioinformatics industry.
Yeah, very specific as well. Claren, I know you wanted to jump in.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's awesome, especially to think about the use case in terms of helping people medically and what that can do. It's just that really does open up. It's very eye-opening because generally, I mean, for me, when I think about metaverses, it's more like Pandu, and credit to you for bringing up William Gibson or like cyberspace and like these guys that coined the term cyberpunk. And here, we're all here living out of that 80s kind of concoction. That they're thinking about things that didn't even exist, and now here we are today. Doing the same thing, like talking about things that, as Sasha said, in 10 years or 15 years, the evolution is super exciting because it's going in ways that, who knows? I mean, we have an idea, but we don't know the future, right? But that was super specific and interesting for me, and with my kind of realm of what I'm into, which is music, and what we're building with Tamago is essentially a decentralized music application that runs on IPFS. So it's sort of like a BitTorrent meets SoundCloud application where the data can be stored Web3, and there's no kind of walled garden, and we can use data on chain to actually promote transparency and do all sorts of things. But that I don't want to go away from metaverse. But just to put things into context with music, when you think about the metaverse, I think the most obvious thing, of course, we think about is with streaming. Just to begin with, mentioning, I think again, Pandu, you mentioning how even just StreamYard, or YouTube Live, or these are kind of a form, right? It's a virtual. Once you get into the definitions of the form of what does virtual mean, yeah, it is a form of a metaverse. And for musicians, artists, and accessibility, it's very clear how you can be anywhere in the world, right? And then now all of a sudden you have an opportunity where you can create these social spaces that people can access to see their favorite artists and feel more connected, like they could, and to create, the potential there is to be able to imagine to make that experience much more and more real. Like real, and again, that's another word, real. What is real? Our definition of real versus kids who are born today have like a totally different definition. I love there's a Keanu Reeves interview where he talks about the new Matrix movie, and he's sitting with the director at a dinner. He tells the story. He's like talking about the new Matrix movie with the director. I didn't see that movie, by the way, but the director's daughter's there, and she's like, "Well, what's the Matrix about?" And Keanu Reeves is like, "Oh, well, the Matrix, it's about this guy who like wakes up one day and he realizes, he's like, wait a minute, my real world isn't a real world." And then he's trying to figure out, well, what's the real world and what's not the real world? And then the director's daughter's like, well, who cares? Why does he care? Like, why does it matter? And then Keanu Reeves is like, amazing, because she's like, it's a different generation. It's a totally different way of looking at reality. And so without getting too deep, I'll just close this because I know I'm going kind of off on three different things. The point here is that with music, I think the clear idea of how the metaverse can be super beneficial is this idea of accessibility, of bringing people together from all over the world, people who may not have the means to go to a super expensive concert. Now, all of a sudden, they can connect and they can have cathartic experiences, cozy at home, things like that. So I'll start with that and throw the ball over to somebody.
Yeah, for me, like what's interesting, like when I think about metaverse and value of it to like what we are working in like Human Guild and just generally broader in near ecosystem, what comes to mind definitely is talent matching, like people meeting in like I was very excited like when I first heard about people in near ecosystem, founders meeting each other within the ecosystem. I was like super excited when I heard the story about Metapool and how like Lucio and Claudia met. And so I think, well, they didn't meet in like Metaverse, they met online, but I think increasingly we're going to be seeing more and more people meeting in Metaverse, right? And starting to work on things together. And so like, I think Metaverse is just part of this bigger trend of economy getting completely decoupled from geography. Like people from anywhere can go meet up and collaborate and build stuff, right? So I think Metaverse is really central to this talent meeting with each other. And we have seen it right now in a very like kind of early V1 form of it, people hanging out together in like crypto voxels and other places, right? But increasingly, more and more people will be coming and starting working on creative pursuits, not just hanging out.
100%, exactly. So that's sort of what I was saying, Sasha. I think you put it more succinctly, but that's that idea that bringing people together, and then also through that, finding the ways to make it so that when you want to build something or you're working on a project, by being apart using the cyberspace, you can have better tools to do that, to work together and to do things like that, if you really want to just make it basic, in a basic kind of way to say it.
Yeah, I'll jump in and add to that. I feel like it's a great space to connect all the tools that we need and the technology. So, for example, like I'm in a virtual space and there's a concert, I can connect with an NFT. An NFT can be on any chain. I can watch a performance streamed in by the next generation blockchain video streaming platform, access a portal to another metaverse to have the same experience but in a different environment. You can potentially play metaverse games within the metaverse, and then you can interact with tokens. Maybe DAO voting will be done by a council meeting in the metaverse, instead of Discord. So all of these tools that we're kind of using on different, it's like okay, let me kind of go abstract here. The metaverse could become your browser. Essentially, you don't have a browser anymore. You're not like clicking through tabs. You're not scrolling through websites. You're actually in the space, interacting with things digitally and virtually in 3 dimensions, and engaging with them that way. I think it's faster as one, like it reminds me of, I think it was a Minority Report, where they're like moving the screen where there's nothing on the screen. Well, now you can import virtual keyboard into your metaverse or wherever place, and then use your keyboard that way. Maybe you can dictate and use whatever AI features and functions, and AI will be your best friend in the metaverse. You can have a little pet AI like Decentricity's little pet dog, digital dog or mechanical robotic dog. She's going to pull it up here.
She has one?
Yeah. So it's going to be like a new way to engage with the internet,
Yeah.
I think. And for music and for what we're doing with DAO Records and everything else that I'm involved in this space, is that it's that point of convergence where you can just interact with everything all in one space and then bounce between spaces, create your environments and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, no, yeah, you wanted to?
This is my dog, and he is digital. So
Do
listen,
you walk him? Do you take him out
no, he just walks indoors.
indoors?
Yeah,
That's handy.
that's sort of like the blurring of distinctions between what's real and not, right? And I think sort of like when we're talking about the metaverse, that's what we're actually talking about. That blurring of do you actually need to be there in IRL, in reality, or can you just be there in a way that's fully digital? Can you be represented by a robot? Probably in the future. So I think that's sort of like and this is not going back to the definitions question, but the usability question is actually quite key here, because we're using the metaverse. We've been utilizing the metaverse.
I like you talking about visibility and not petting the little dog.
I can hear him enjoying it.
I mean, he is very usable, because like he's my mental health dog. So,
That's great.
he's a good friend. He's a good friend. So I mean, I think again, the blurring of realities and the blurring of like the limits between digital and reality. That's sort of something we all are striving for. Sort of like like even when we're talking about smart contracts, right? That is sort of we call it disintermediation. What does it disintermediate from? It disintermediates disintermediates us from the necessity of having humans in the middle. right? Like if I write a smart contract, that smart contract will basically act for me, live for me. And I'm not saying that we are going to have a future where only robots rule, but at least we have a future where we are disintermediated by trust in, like, we have trustless systems. And of course, at the moment, it takes a lot of trust to build trustless systems. But once these systems are all set up, these become infrastructure. And these infrastructure, that's the thing that we are going to be interacting with. And that is basically why the metaverse fits so well with decentralized technologies, because we don't have to have like humans in the middle, that takes care of our land, or is able to take our land away from us, or disintermediate our access to things, and remove ourselves from the metaverse. So that's why I think decentralization plus governance, and decentralized governance in particular, and under smart contracts, that is the key part of the metaverse, and why we need to have that. And he's asleep. The dog's asleep, guys.
You
He fell asleep as you were talking.
Okay.
The little no, but this is I can't agree less. That's really relevant for the for what's happening today. I'm also I would like to hear some more maybe thoughts about 3XR, because I know that you're working with the Meatbase on establishing the virtual galleries, and I would like to know a little bit more on how you what kind of the role and the added value metaverses play specifically, all next to the obvious ones in the world of NFT and having those virtual galleries. If you could elaborate on that a little.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, essentially, I'm also working at Mintbase. I joined Mintbase 1 year ago, and since I joined, I was already working in the virtual reality space for quite a while. And when I joined, started like clicking that, I really wanted persistency. I wanted like these things to live, and mostly because I was tired of Facebook. Because I had like a not so good relationship as indie developer publishing games on their platform. They're still owing me money, by the way. But yeah, anyway. So as a developer, I was kind of pissed, and I started thinking, how can I, use NFTs as a way to, find different models for monetizing or helping others monetize whatever they do on the virtual spaces. And when I joined Mintbase, started like looking into how Near worked, and how all these things could make sense. And at the same time, like you started seeing more galleries or gallery spaces going on, because people have made arts and they want to showcase their stuff. And this is a perfect fit, because you could not only showcase art, but for example, Vandal could showcase music, or there's a lot of nice ways to showcase things in the 3D space. And that's kind of like how we started. And the partnership with Mintbase was inevitable. We just essentially created spaces for every single deployed contract. And then what we started working like after summer, and that we launched like with last week, was how you can mint a space. So you can create a space that is also an NFT with composition of other NFTs. And the goal for this is, persistency. It's open data, so we can render this NFT, but anyone else can render this NFT. So if NearHubs wants to render this space, they can also render it. If anyone, have their own 3D render and they want to render this, it's all good. And what I like about this is, there are many things I like about this. One is when you're showcasing stuff. So let's say you want to create a gallery, and you just say, all right, I want to place Vandal's work, I want to place my work. You're kind of like curating stuff, right? Curating NFTs that are minted. So not all NFTs are great. Mine's are my curation is great. So I curate this stuff, and the cool thing is, whenever this NFT gets sold in the marketplace, everyone showcase there, and the royalties through every single NFT get paid out. So it's kind of like a nice way to incentivize people curating spaces, curating work on as NFTs, and I don't know. I think I traveled a bit, but that's kind of like what we're doing. We're just experimenting because we love virtual reality and we love NFTs, and we just want to see and experiment things. I don't really know where this is going, but I'm 100% sure that VR is here to stay, and I really don't want Facebook to to have such a important role in this space. So that's
No,
kind of
absolutely,
Come on,
absolutely.
Zuckerberg, pay this guy. Pay him what you owe him. You know, if you're watching right now.
Zuckerberg.
If I can just really quickly, Sophia, because I know you said you were traveling, but I really think that what you just said was sort of the same exact points that Pandu was saying, but from your own experience, in the sense that it's really that idea of combining the, like the Web3, the idea of smart contracts, decentralizing, because the metaverse is this idea that it should be decentralized. That's why, like, the opening thing that I started with, reading like Facebook changing its name to Meta as if Facebook is the metaverse. Like, that's how it feels like. It's like there's this kind of race now all of a sudden between Google and Facebook to be like, we're going to have the metaverse. This is ours, and we're going to tax everybody for being in here. But what we're talking about here is something that's so much more, open. It's not about like, and it's the same issue with Web 2, because I don't think Web 2, the internet inherently is decentralized. Inherently, it's decentralized. But then you have, now it's not. It's a bunch of tech companies that have put up their guarded walls, right? And then there's the ones that want to own everything. And then all of a sudden we have this new kind of way, a new path forward to create more interactivity without these walls, right? So I think what you were saying wasn't really traveling. It's kind of just exactly what you were saying, Pandu, and kind of like on the tip of this conversation, it seems to be the right. I think we're all on the same page here. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So, guys, one of my friends here, like Danny, is actually in the chat, and he's been saying a lot of things about like he's actually the CEO of Myriad Social, which is the social media that's being built on Octopus, and he there's a thing that he says it's being born now on like the Web3 side, which actually forms like it's not just like one project, it's multiple projects that are actually form sort of a resistance against the centralization of big tech, including Facebook. And what's key there, I think he's saying, is interoperability between all of this, like between all of the multiple metaverses, between all of the multiple, social media that is sprouting up. Because when we're using a Near wallet, we jump over from one application to another. We are able to basically access each other's data if we want to, like as long as it's on a public smart contract. So what do you guys think about that? Like the discussion in terms of interoperability and the metaverse?
I will just say something very quickly. Sorry. Yeah, regarding interoperability, I think that for content in general, like NFTs are great, because they not only kind of like standardized how the metadata, like, oh, what's the title for this thing? What's the description? Where this other data that is referenced on this one thing lives, right? And I think NFTs are just a perfect example of like what interoperability between metaverses can exist. And then, yeah, that's just my point. I'll let anyone give their thoughts.
I think important piece also is just like rich social profiles. What I mean by this is like reputation can be there, right? It could be social graphs, it could be interest graphs, right? And the point is like those pieces of information about individual users, they'll be living in different contexts, right? Between different open web applications. So for example, if you did help somebody in the context of like hackathon and you earn some kind of reputation there, you can redeem it in the context of maybe like online invite-only event in Metaverse. So you'll have the transition of your individual information across different contexts. That's not how internet works today, unfortunately, right? And that's the whole idea of like open web. And I think it will take like a lot of years. We're like so early. From my perspective, like near native use cases didn't even happen yet. People didn't even start almost. It will take like another 5-6 years of many hackathons to get to this place where we actually start using this like open web. So I think it's a really central piece to the metaverse, central piece to how it will be playing out.
I think if while we're on this topic, and I'm a firm believer in decentralization as well. To play the devil's advocate, you potentially could see a situation where regulators and those who control your access to the internet could then, based on say whatever you did wrong, could turn that off, essentially. And in many ways, you could kind of look at what we're all building now with this sort of decentralized utopian vision is technically could become our own prison in many ways, if it's controlled by centralized entities who want to take advantage of people. And I think that that's something that we should be aware of, that potential. And I like this idea of an open web, or maybe even a way to access the internet that is open, that is decentralized, and not controlled by, say, your internet provider, you know, in your country, or Elon Musk, for example, right? So I think that you know, as much as we are here to build a better future for everybody and for all of the things that we're doing, let's be safe and keep that in mind, and work together. You know, I think we're stronger together, and I think that this Web3 space is a space that is conducive to collaboration, and it encourages it, and it's just such an amazing new world that I've met so many amazing people through everybody here on this panel. You know, 3 of which who I've met in person already, which is awesome, and the other 2 who I'd like to meet very soon. You know,
it feels like we've met, Vandal, for some reason.
I know,
like,
I know.
Vandal, what is real? You know, maybe.
Well, real is real. Like, you know, I feel pain. That's real. You know, physically in my physical body, connecting with, giving someone a hug. You can't do that. There's nothing that matches a real hug, in my opinion.
There's mental pain. There is mental pain. It's real too.
Of course, yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
I was just kidding. I would like to meet you in the, I don't know what I'll call it, the space.
The space.
The space we were naturally born.
Well, actually, funny enough, talking about this, we started doing NFT events in San Francisco. Like a couple months we've been doing them. We're like rebranding them. We like just took Midspace DAO as like brand. We haven't published anywhere, but like it's kind of interesting. This idea of like actually meeting back in Midspace, you know, like that will become a thing.
So guys, actually Danny is here, so I'm gonna switch with him so he can say a few words. He leads Myriad.social, which is like one of the first social medias in this ecosystem. So I'm gonna leave the studio now.
And we will let him in. Yeah. There. Okay. Perfect. Hello, Danny.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. I apologize for the lack of camera. This is a bit last minute, so I will not be showing my face. It's not worth it tonight. But very happy to join the discussion. Good morning, good night, good something for someone, somewhere, everywhere, and everyone. So I wanted to say a little something about what is reality, because this is a topic that's quite fascinating. So as a user, I'm quite into VR, right? And I've been dreaming of VR since I first tried it when I was like something like 14 or 13 at a tech show. It was like the headset was bigger than my chest. And it weighed something like 55 kilos, and it was at 12 frames per second. And I had a pyramid that could shoot cylinders that shot cubes, you know. But it was the future. And right now, I'm following this YouTuber who actually gets to try the latest of the latest technologies for industrial uses, knowing that VR is used pretty often in the industry for design, for a lot of things actually. And he had this experience using a very high definition headset that after a while he could actually start feeling what he was interacting with, even without force feedback equipment, even without haptic equipment. His brain started to trick him into actually having I'm gonna say like ghost ghost touches, ghost feelings in his fingers, and it's pretty interesting how we being the only interfaces between ourselves and the outside world can trick ourselves into feeling things. And what Pandu said about the blurring and what was evoked about the blurring of realities, I think this is something that's very much here. We 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 had a little fun in the chat talking about pop culture and how in 1,000 years historians are going to think that our pantheon right now is made of gods that were half people and half animals. Batman, Spider-Man, and probably not Elephant Man, but you see what I mean.
If we still in 1,000 years.
Hopefully, let's not get started here. We had a good mood. Let's keep the good mood.
Yeah, actually, what's interesting about it, I would add some other angle to this, is like kind of interesting in where we are in the evolution of this whole technology thing. Is like we had this culture, like human culture, many civilizations for hundreds of years, and then we had this internet thing for like a couple decades, right? But now for the first time ever, we're like starting to actually internet native culture is being born, right? And that will like kind of like actually define kind of like where humanity is going forward. So which is like kind of crazy transition if you think about it.
100%.
This is very true.
It reminds me of like the collective unconscious, like when you go all the way back, when you talk about cyberspace, we're essentially, just as a species, what we do, going back to the definition of reality, one of the paramount reasons for reality, if I remember like an old college class when talking, from this really great professor who did this course on the big history, it's a big history kind of concept from this guy from Stanford University, which was then taken I took like an extrapolation of that. And essentially this idea that, I think something we all know intuitively, reality, well, I love the Philip K. Dick version, is that which, when we don't think about it doesn't go away, that idea. But more so than that, to that effect, meaning that, if we see a red light, we know not to cross on a very basic level. Don't cross the street because there's a red light. Chance, symbolic chance, risk of being, hurt or killed. So this instinct to survive, and reality being the perception of symbols for us to survive, to be able to communicate, to feel good, to love, to do all of these things. And so just, Danny, I think you got very philosophical, maybe not so intentionally, at least for me, when you started talking about 1,000 years from now, and you started talking about the VR, because really, yeah, like in the whole extrapolation of time, especially Sasha, when you say a few hundred years ago, I do think about Jung and the collective unconscious, and this idea that he was saying, we all have these symbols, and when we dream, there are certain symbols, and he was trying to find the connections between which symbols.
Archetypes, Jungian archetypes.
Exactly, that we could identify with, right? And then cyberspace, if you go all the way back to the 80s and you have William Gibson talking about, all right, so now there's a network where we can actually communicate with these symbols, and they can persist. And they persist, and we can verify them. There's a verification process there. So it is quite interesting when you look at it in terms of time. When you look at, I guess, the idea of communicating and networking, networks and time with this whole metaverse.
It is fascinating. It is fascinating. And if I may iterate upon what you just said and segue into something, we were talking with a member of my team, a very bright kid, about Gen Z's use of emotes. For instance, I remarked that they use affectionate emotes much more than us older geeks. And it can lead to all sorts of shenanigans. But more on this side, we've created already pictograms with those emotes, and we must, I think, as creators, we must be very aware of the fact that the online dimension unites people of very different cultural backgrounds right now, very different levels of of education, pop culture awareness, and who have their own their own meme culture in their own countries and all that. But also there is a language barrier. There are a lot of things that still, I'm not going to say separate us, but contribute to that big great diversity that's on the internet. And as creators, we must be aware that we are basically, evolutionary wise, cavemen with computers, right? I mean, we had thousands, 100,000 millions of years of us being basically smart monkeys, and all of a sudden there is the Industrial Revolution, and then it's the information age, and we must lead, I think, our fellow humans toward an easy, clean, uniting communication. We try to do this on Marriott. We're trying, to implement UI UX tricks to have healthy debate, to let people connect without too much of, I'm gonna say, aggression or tribalism. But especially recently, I've seen how UI and UX influence the behavior of the crowd, and the effect it has on a Web3 economy and Web3 applications is absolutely fascinating. And I think we must remember this, and we must make it easy for people to onboard without frustration, and with the best experience possible, as in less trying to be wholesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like it how the conversation is. You wanted to say something, Clarence? Sorry, interrupted.
No, Sophia, go ahead.
I was just.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do quickly. But yeah, Danny, I just like everything you just said, totally 100%, except for one small thing, and it's not like, it's obviously it's a little bit out of context of what you're talking about, but it is something that when you talk about, you're talking about the accessibility and this preservation of differences of cultures, but then finding ways so that we can protect each person's own individual identity, what they culturally connect to, but then at the same time, reduce the barriers of interactivity. And that's all fantastic, and I'm totally for all of those points. But one fallacy, one thing that I think we're doing, which we need to possibly reconsider, is that idea of easiness all the time through communication, especially with UI and UX. Because intuitive UI, intuitive UX, sure, that's really great. But I do think there are many cases, especially if you look in the gaming world, where easiness, you take it too far and you reduce everything to the most simplistic version of things for people in order to communicate or do whatever. And by reducing that, you also reduce the quality of experience. And I think there's a fallacy there with the approach of some of the greatest minds and some of the greatest thinkers of today, and how they look at it versus even 20, 30 years ago, where this concept that we're talking about, which is much more important for us because, we feel like, or at least those who are the leaders of our industries feel like they're on the precipice of preserving this idea of creating a better facility of communication, but then I think we're living in a culture where we're losing more of a grit, because I'd like to see more of a grit in terms of the quality of thing in general. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, Sophia. So it's just one little thing, Danny. I think you triggered me, so I'm going to stop. But anyway, but that's just something I wanted to just get out of my system. It's out.
No, but I absolutely love the direction this conversation is going. This is all I wanted to say, actually, and I think we would need another panels in the future to discuss those kind of existential, ethical, and the basic questions that take us back to value, and what is to simplify, what kind of implications that has on different phenomena and aspects of our life. So I think that's definitely, we need to organize an extra session just for that alone, and not maybe even one. So maybe one of the last topics that we can cover today, quickly, because I see that we're approaching the end of the hour. Maybe real quick, if you could briefly just say what you think about how and whether the metaverse spaces are accessible enough for the user experience right now, and how you see it evolving in the future for your specific project or just in general. That would be interesting to hear.
I'm interested in exploring this idea of connecting the physical space with the metaverse. And, we started doing a few experiments, and actually we got one coming up in March, late March in Malaysia. It's going to be a live venue stream performance and art gallery show, and then in the metaverse. So people everywhere can experience what's happening in a place. And this bridging between the physical world, which I think is still very important for us, as we do exist in it for now. Is to be able to bridge the two. So you could have places like what used to be arcades or cyber cafes, and people will go in there to then connect to the metaverse and come in and jump in their avatar and be in the little room or whatever if they don't have access at home. And these kind of things I think are really, really kind of excite me, because I love the physical space. I love the real world. I also love the virtual world as well. So why not have the ability to bring both together? And I think that'll be pretty exciting for me, especially when it comes to music and entertainment and the experience of it. There's nothing like experiencing a concert, being there. I've had moments in concerts that were like so amazing that I probably couldn't experience virtually. But hey, I mean, that's me personally. It could be different for other people. But yeah, bringing the real world space in with the virtual space in the metaverse, I think is going to be exciting to look forward to.
Awesome. I got to bounce to you guys, so I'll just say a quick plug. 2 p.m. back in Near Hub, Tama Island, Metaverse. We have we've got 2 DJs playing. They come in on the media frames. We've got a zombie treasure hunt for an NFT. Vandal actually found our first goat, which was up on our, Tama Island is living between the nexus of multi-dimensions. So you have all sorts of different types of ethereal experiences in this in a kind of electronic journey where you can come hang out. So that's happening at 2 p.m. EST. It was really great to talk to everybody today. But I got to get running. So nice to meet everyone.
Thank you,
You got to get on a DJ set. Get me on a DJ
Thanks a
set
bunch. Love the discussion.
Yes. Down for a podcast. Yes, Vandal, please. I gotta have you down. Vandal's also he's lit. He's a sick DJ. He's amazing. He's got good music taste. So I'd love to.
Great stuff.
Anyway, okay, bye guys. Bye,
Later, Claire.
Have a good one.
Okay, actually, I had a question for Trix. Arden, sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering since you're creating these spaces that businesses or art galleries can use for their business, like, what do you think it's still missing before it gets to mass adoption? Like, what do you think are the features that needs to be developed in these contexts to make it more appealing for people to use that, basically?
Yeah. So okay, I can start with how you can create your thing today. Is simply you select a template, right? And the template could be a template for an art gallery, or a template for a virtual meeting, or a template for a shop, right? That's kind of like where I envision like simple tools that enable creating spaces for everyone. So what's missing today in terms of features, I think, we're still missing a lot of better multiplayer. We do have that, but like I think, for example, Near Hub has this. It's top notch. Like it's really good how it handles like everyone here. I think we're still missing like improving that, and then interaction. I think someone was talking about UX before, UI and UX. I think there's not a lot of games do have UI and UX pretty much handled, but when you go into like 3D spaces and you need to interact with things, there's still a lot of discussion on how to do this, right? So I think just improving like usability in general, and and enabling other types of spaces, maybe. I guess.
Okay. I think there were some questions that maybe we want to address before closing that up. What do you think, or do we have enough time?
I see that Pandu just joined back, so I think we can probably we can definitely do that.
The dogs.
For me, I'm having fun. So
you want to address the questions? Let's address the questions.
Yeah, so one of the questions was actually, can you explain like the concept of reality chain, like the concept of a non-immersive metaverse? Because we hear a lot about the metaverse as a full immersive experience. So what does it mean to have like a non-immersive metaverse?
Okay, so it's a different kind of immersion, really. It's not that it's not immersive; it is socially immersive, while not being like photorealistic. The idea behind like the first engine that Reality Chain is creating, it's called the 2D verse engine. It is a 2D metaverse, and that engine actually is something that you can run on your phone. You can run in parallel to your real life, and it doesn't require you to give it your whole attention. So I'm a huge fan of CryptoVoxels. I'm a huge fan of Somnium Space, and of course NearHub as well, where it's all very immersive, and you can basically interact with people in 3D. And there's of course a place for that. There's of course basically like a use case for that. But what we're trying to do with our first engine is to show people that there's actually another alternative. You can have something that is very usable, has all the streaming capabilities of like the advanced metaverses, voice chats, regular text chats, and all the functionalities, NFTs, programmable items in world, stuff like that. But done in a way that is similar to casual gaming. So casual metaversing is sort of the name of the game in that case. And imagine having that application be on your phone, just like a chat application is on your phone, and you can just sit like in your house, in your metaverse, in your tiny little metaverse house, and people just can visit and drop in while you're doing other stuff. And it would be a concept that we call reality sidechain. Like it's a sidechain to your reality, where it's always on, it's always usable, and that's what we're creating. We already have a demo up. It's several. We have actually 3 worlds up. One is myriad.town, the other is paras.city, and the other one is demo.unique1.world. So there are 3 different URLs. You can try it out. It's
DAO
really,
Records coming soon.
DAO Records coming soon. Yeah. Of course. And of course, those are demonstrations. So we're still, fixing up like the infrastructure and everything. So it might be kind of slow, but at least it's you can run it on your phone. You can run it on your PC already, and we really want to ensure that anyone can actually be using this metaverse concept in their regular life, like walking your dog, your real dog, while being on the metaverse.
Yeah, I think that reality chain is really addressing something important, that of accessibility of the metaverse, and really pushing for more usability, that are like 2 of the main issues for people to get into the metaverse. So I'm sure that there will, like, these 2 main features like will help a lot of people get into the metaverse, and that's great.
Right, an expansion of sort of like the market of the metaverse, rather than just having like a metaverse that's only usable on VR, which is VR. VR is cool. VR is actually something that we're also researching. But like if you can basically have something like you can have a choice between actually accessing a metaverse in VR with like high quality, plus you can also access the same metaverse in 2D as basically a casual game on your phone, and those 2 metaverses are interoperable. That's I think that would have more adoption. and especially in the third world countries where a lot of our teams are actually operating out of, including Danny. Sir Danny here.
Yeah, and especially for mobile phone users, like this is like some of the issues that we face with our community with NXM, and it's great that Near is pretty easy to use on your mobile. So accessing various spaces like CryptoVoxels and being able to, and CryptoVoxel is pretty easy to use on mobile as well, but you can't interact on it, right? You're not able to chat. You're not able to perform a lot of the different functions like emoting and dancing yet. So having access via mobile, I think, is very important, and that will bring a lot more people on board.
Yeah, so there is a little thing to be said about mobile access, because it's just a part of a greater thing, I think. If you have a universe that's persistent, I think it should be cross-platform, cross-device, cross everything, multi devices. So I don't see why technically we couldn't wink wink nudge nudge develop experiences where someone is logged in on his latest Pixmax 8K with like smellorama and force feedback, and interact with someone who's just logged on their phone. Technically, it's very feasible, and what I want to see with metaverses and with this blurring of reality is I sit at a table somewhere in a restaurant or at a cafe, and I can see my interlocutor on the same, we're connected on the same verse, and I can see my interlocutor on augmented reality on my phone across the table and talk to them. They see my face projected on an avatar inverse. I see them across the table, and we just interact, and it doesn't matter if they're at the other end of the planet or in another time zone and stuff. We make time for each other, and we can actually enjoy each other. And this I think is something that's possible, and that's to look forward to.
Okay. So some of our guests are now have to go, so maybe we can wrap it up. It was very nice having you today, and everybody really appreciated this discussion. Like looking at the comments, like people really enjoyed, and I think that we touched upon so many interesting conversations, some more technical, some more philosophical, and I really loved it, and I hope that we'll have the chance to have more meetings like this to discuss this very interesting stuff. So thank you everybody for coming here today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you. Спасибо большое.
Big shout out to the Open Web Sandbox team. Yeah.
Oh, don't forget the NFTs. So if you post your, what do you have to do again? You have to make a screenshot from the Metaverse, from our space, and you have to use OWS in capital letters, Metaverse hashtag. I think Sammy shared it in the space, in the Meta space. You'll get an NFT from him personally. So don't forget to do that.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.